and we welcome you in to a Week 9 edition of the 4th and 1 podcast. I'm your co-host, the one and the only, olive wearing because it's finally fall, Coach Trey. And I'm accompanied by my other co-host who does not yet have a camera, but is still here in spirit to provide his absolutely fantastic takes on everything, including color Crocs. Russo.
That was a fabulous intro.
Thanks, bro.
Hi, folks.
Appreciate that. How you feeling, dude?
It's a Thursday. It's a Thursday. We're inching closer to the end of or towards maybe not the end, but some craziness in the college football committee. I think they thought they were going to eliminate the craziness, but I think they just expanded it, given the more teams now. So we're going.
It's a really difficult time to say that you're a Sunday game fan, considering that the amount of parity that's happening right now in college football is kind of unhinged. And I'm not really, I don't know, man. Like I'd like to lead it like this. And if we're gonna, like, I know we're gonna go to the recap. I know we're gonna talk about it, but we can't not talk about big picture. So if you're of the belief that this is going to be a 12-team thing, right? In essence, and we talked about this before, it's an 11-team thing. So it's an 11-team thing with one being a shoe-in. So you're going to have obviously the group team that's going to make it in, whoever that's going to be. But you're now looking at squarely teams that are trying to figure out how many games they can afford to lose and to not lose. Do we want to? We had the question before. I don't know if we brought this up on the last show or not, or if we talked about this off camera because we do so much of that. But like, would you prefer whoever it's going to be to go and risk your third loss in your conference championship, or just stay home? Like, what's the preference? So I guess as it speaks to like your thoughts, getting into the weeds of like some of that, have you begun to think about some of the absolute catastrophe and pitchforks and torches that we might have as we kind of wind down the middle of the stretch here?
Well, several good friends of the show, and shout out to Big Doug, Finesse, and the Tyler Pat for always being amazing in the chat. I've had a few close friends bring up this argument, and they're strong specifically on the take of not necessarily how many losses you need, but where you want to be in the playoff. They're like heavily set on basically you don't want to be in the top four. Like you don't want to buy because you have you have a potential easier path being outside of that. I could be absolutely botching that. It's somewhat in the ballpark of that. Just because of how the bracket's set. We've gone through that a few times. It's totally dependent on how this thing finishes because as it stands now, I mean, do you really think Oregon, like who do you think's the better team between Oregon and Ohio State, right? We've seen the game at Oregon. What do you think the game is at a neutral site?
I think you end up getting one team probably wins 5 or 6 times out of 10. I don't think
it's just, but like at one game neutral field.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ohio State can do more.
I agree. I think Ohio State is the better team. They did not come through and they lost a very good game against Oregon at Oregon.
I was going to say, I wonder if there was only a way we could find out who was the better team. But no, that's not. I'm just being.
I mean, it's a good test, right? But I mean, when you get to the college football playoff, everything's at neutral, except for the first round. So it's something that we'll have to maybe do every week. Maybe when we get a bracket, like when we get to when does the committee start releasing their rankings? Like next week?
It's usually right after the bye week. What would be the second bye week for people? So it'll more than likely be after next week, I believe.
So I think we should do a fun little segment on that every day, like hypothetically, play out the bracket and then see who has the best path. and maybe we'll take tally of who has like what seed has the best path to victory. I think that would be fun. But anyways, we'll save LSU for last. Let's start with a game that you just seem very excited about with Notre Dame and Navy. Give me the floor.
Man. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So when we looked at this game a month ago, it was me and I don't know, probably two or three beers deep at a tailgate, leaned up, smashing jambalaya, getting ready to walk into the stadium, and I'm like proving a point to the person that I'm in a conversation with, and and I said, are you prepared to talk about Notre Dame and Navy being a game that's going to mean something if Navy is for real? I think is how I worded it. And the person said, and I quote, it's going to be a 2-touchdown game. And that alone is terrifying because the game's at Navy. So typically, if you were to put this game on paper, you would take average points scored, average points scored, average points against, and then you would look at their record, and then you would take into effect even the coach's record and like wins and losses and strength and FPI and boop, 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 and all that goes into a blender, and you put it together, and that model spits out a number. That model that we've talked about so many times is so much more difficult than it might seem, but it's because we've seen so many of the games. We know, like we've done it here. Like you say a game and I give you a number, and it's usually pretty close to what Vegas is bringing it up at. Okay, so if we did like Odd Shark, which this is, I can't do it from this computer. It's a company computer. They don't like sports bets, so I can't. So I can't do it from there. But anyway, this game is in fact a 2-touchdown game. Notre Dame is at Navy. Shout out to my dog Phil, who lives up in Indy. I love Coach Freeman. I love what he's about. I think that he's got them boys on one. I think he's got them juiced. My problem is that I think that they are embarrassingly underprivileged when it comes to receivers. I am not impressed with what I've seen from that side of the offense. And they can spin the ball, but you just don't have confidence in one-on-one that you can go out and do it. And the problem is that Navy can take the ball away. So if they can make you I mean, any team can beat you if they make you one-dimensional. Ask Alabama how that feels. Like any team can beat you if they make you one-dimensional. And so the way that I look at this game is that I look at Navy trying to come up with a havoc rate that, like we've talked about havoc rate before with LSU, and like how they kind of get these things together, these weird packages. Even they are going to try to get more possessions on the ball than they're supposed to, whether that's speeding it up, throwing it through the air, even going deep now with Navy. Dear God, pause, by the way. Like Navy throws the ball. I don't love 14 points on the road for Notre Dame, dude. I don't. I'm not quite there yet to want to tell you that it's a lock play, but I would have no problem with you throwing that up to maybe like a 17 spot and putting that in with another confidence play and getting your money up. I don't love that number.
I I feel this is a spot where Notre Dame just whips that ass.
Maybe,
And
dude.
and
And that's why I'm saying that I don't love it, because it makes me feel weird. Because Notre Dame is the better team, but Navy's not scared.
it'll be like exciting for the first quarter, and then after the first quarter it's over. I think the spreads, I like it, in my opinion. Give me the 2 touchdowns.
Um, I, so I, can we do this can we do this live really quick? I'm gonna do this live. We're gonna look at just a couple of things that I would look at if you were to ask me, like box score books. What would we make on the box score?
Mhm.
Okay. FPI gives them a 90% chance. I don't look at that. But here's what I do look at. Here we go. Okay. I mean, Russo, that's a dead heap even. Dude,
just look
Horvath
at
is like that, bro. Thank you for your service. Go ahead.
I just think if you look at them, I mean, just look at the comparison of the last 5 games.
Rizzo.
Yes, I get it. Navy's looked good, but just let's compare the competition here.
Yeah. Oh, correct.
Georgia,
Oh God, I just had this.
yeah.
I just had this conversation with somebody trying to compare Heisman passing numbers with the last 3 Heisman winners over in Miami. I'm like,
Mhm.
dude, please stop.
Right. I just think it's just too much. I think it's a good
Char-
story, and I hope it's close.
Charlotte Air Force, UAB, Memphis, Temple versus Georgia Tech, Stanford, Louisville, Miami of Ohio, and
Yeah,
Purdue.
it's a beat
This, I
down.
mean, if you're trying to make the big dance in basketball, then this would not be a bad tilt. But neither one of these teams have played anybody that is great. I mean, Louisville is not bad, but
Mhm.
if I lined you up Louisville and Vanderbilt on a neutral field, what do you think that spread is?
Louisville and Vanderbilt?
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh, dude.
A pick 'em.
Honestly, give me Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's
Yeah,
hot.
that's what I'm saying.
Pick
Like,
'em, but give me Vanderbilt.
so that's my point. Is that my point is that like either one of these teams have they really been tested? And the answer is the best team that Notre Dame has played is Texas A&M. And I'm not really trying to segue into them right now. I know it seems like it'd be a perfect segue, but I kind of want to save them for a second because I'm not really done talking about these other games. I don't love that number. 14 is weird to me. I don't think that you should love that either. I'm just saying.
I love it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Give it to
Well,
me.
then we'll talk
All
about
day.
then we'll talk about it. Then we'll talk about one more that I'm not entirely certain that I love, and it's Illinois on the road at Oregon. Um,
Huh.
I would like for you to tell me
And by
in
the
your
way, this is, like, live. Like, we actually didn't really prep,
yeah
for this,
yeah,
so,
this is
like,
how it's supposed to be.
this is live in the flesh. Oregon minus 22.
Yeah.
Illinois got an impressive 6-1, coming off a good win against Michigan. Uh, competed with Penn State. Had a couple close games with teams that they probably shouldn't have had close games with.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you
Are you
Oregon
impressed with
being
Oregon, Anthony?
huh?
Are you impressed with them?
Do I think they're the number 1 team? No.
Well, that's a difficult thing to say because who knows who the number one team is right now.
Uh,
You have
so
to put
Dylan
them there
gave
because they're undefeated. You have to, but like,
I mean, I think statistically looking at it, I'm impressed. I've watched a few glimpses of their games. I just don't see like their defense is hit or miss sometimes.
mhm.
Obviously, it's easier said than done than holding Ohio State to what they did. So like, congrats on that. But like, let's get into like an SEC. Like, give them any like I feel like any top 3 or 4 SEC team can compete with Oregon.
Maybe.
Um, I think that's just
But they
how I
haven't
feel
had to
about
they
it.
haven't had to play yet.
I think if we're being honest, going into the season, it's like, oh my god, the Big Ten's caught up right to the SEC as far as depth, as far as talent in the conference. I don't think they have the depth that the SEC does.
No one. I don't
I
think
think
anyone.
especially this year, any team in the SEC can win at any given moment. I think any game. Uh, you know, that's just how it is, and I think a lot of the NIL money is gravitating in the SEC. I just think it's the conference to beat. I don't think it's close. They're not top heavy this year, so there's not any like teams that you'll probably fear. But if I have trust in anyone as far as the competition day in and day out in the conference, give me any SEC team that's in the top half against Oregon, and I feel like you'll be shocked.
Don't
So
don't sell yourself short of thinking that the Big Ten won't arrive when they need to arrive. But you and I both know that when push comes to shove, we've literally seen this. We've seen this movie before in that Big Ten in the playoff. Like it's literally a running joke. Big Ten in the bowl games always fade. Like it is. hysterical the amount of data we have on Big Ten not performing well in bowl games. But if we're gonna, I mean, we'll take this question if you want here.
I think it's the same thing. I mean, Ohio State, I think talent wise is slightly better than Oregon. I just think it's the same argument. The Big Ten's top heavy. Ohio
Right.
State, Penn State, Oregon. Michigan's clearly down. I think a lot of people saw that coming. USC has clearly, hit a downslide from the start of their season. Those are it. Those are the three teams. And to be frank, Penn State, you get that Franklin. Just they haven't impressed me at all. Like they're undefeated. They've skated by several games. Their defense is really
They
good.
didn't do anything kind of like what we thought they would do,
Yeah,
didn't they?
I mean, it's the same. It's the same as their defense is incredible. I don't trust their offense in a big game. Like you're just gonna see them lose a really close game in the playoff. I just see it. I mean, like whether it's first round or if they somehow win the Big Ten and have a bye. I just think regardless of who they play, I think they're just going to lose a close game because I just don't trust their offense enough. They've got a good run game, but when you're one dimensional, it's pretty easy to stop that. And I think you'll if I have to give any critique to our team, LSU, kind of one dimensional sometimes. Now that they're getting the run game going, but if you stop the run game, I'm scared, right? Because then you're in a situation like Ole Miss. But I'm not scared. I would still take any SEC team in the top half over Ohio State any given day. And like I said, I think you'll be shocked. And given the Oregon game, just a quick glimpse, I think that number's a lot. 22. I mean, I don't think Illinois is any pushover. Give me the points for plus 22 on Illinois there. I don't like it at all.
If you're not playing look aheads, and I'm not really sure what else to play. It doesn't. I know this doesn't feel like this to us because we kind of have seen we can see the forest through the trees, but Illinois is a bigger game than what you like than what people think. Not just because they're ranked, but because they're actually good. I am telling you that it is a look ahead spot because they know that they have to go on the road to the big house. They have to go on the road to beat Big Blue next week. They don't want to go on the road.
Illinois does?
No. Oregon does. Oregon goes on the road to Michigan next week.
Do we really fear Michigan though?
But it's the perception of it, Anthony. It's the players that are thinking about it. They know they can beat them. They know that. But no one wants to go on the road to Michigan. No one wants to go on the road to Wisconsin. Nobody. You can and you could win, but it's I'm telling you, bro,
I'll give you that. I mean,
they will find some way to get close. When they were barely beating Idaho and Boise State, we were all kind of looking together bro, what is going on? And what ended up being true was that it was the first game jitters, right? With the first one, everybody sucks in their first game. You're allowed to suck in your first game, but you'd rather suck and win than suck and lose, right? So then they end up having the barn burn with Boise State. Well, it turns out Boise State has the best player in college football this year. So there's something to be said for you haven't let anybody score more than 15 points since that point, except when you played what we're being told is the second best team in college football right now in Ohio State. And that took a glitch in the rules and the matrix for you to win that game. But hats off to Coach Lanning for getting it done. None of us are faulting him for that. But what I'm trying to say is we can see the forest of the trees because to us it's 5 more games and you're undefeated going into playoffs, and you probably will have the number 1 seed locked up, right? I mean, I would assume that they would give them the number 1 seed at the number 1 overall seed. But in my opinion, number 1, 2, 3, and 4 only matters until you see who's playing across from you at that point. Because there could easily be a team that loses and somebody else gets ranked at, say, 12 when someone else gets ranked at 9, and it's whoa. 12's way better than 9, or 11's way better than 9, right? Because 12 is going to go to to the group team. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like it seems easy to us, but to them, like they're looking at it differently. So I'm kind of looking at this as we're getting this big game on the road. This is kind of like a situation like what LSU did. Ole Miss is coming on to the crib, but then you got to go and play a team that's maybe underperforming but still very capable and going on the road to Michigan.
I don't know.
In
I mean,
Arkansas.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, that's the best part about it. It's a 2:30 start time in Eugene. We'll see. I still like the points plus 22 there. I mean, I don't know if I'll make that an official pick, but just glancing at it, I like that.
Sure.
Tyler asked the chances of Alabama missing the playoffs. I mean, I think it's pretty good. I would probably give it a 60% chance at this point. I mean, I think
that's fair.
I think it only really they're in a bad spot because they have 2 SEC losses. Now if they were men and actually played someone on week 1, maybe we would be respecting them more, or maybe they wouldn't be in this situation. But no, look, they are historically known for doing that. So whatever, I don't care.
Well,
but 60%, I mean, they really the LSU game is big for them. If they don't beat LSU, it's over. If they lose another game, it's over. However, even if they were to win out hypothetically,
they still have to go to the SEC championship game.
LSU beats A&M. LSU still holds a tiebreaker unless they lose another game. After A&M at Bama, especially if LSU wins this weekend, I think they can even afford to lose to Bama and be okay. Just because they'll still have a tiebreaker in the SEC. So I just think they need a lot to help them. It's still early on and it can happen. Odds actually have them as a pick 'em to make the playoffs still. So if you're listening to Vegas,
I'm saying it's 50-50. Because even if because that's my point. My point is a little bit different. You have to stop considering just the last regular season games, because they could absolutely dog walk Missouri. They could also lose to Missouri, but they could absolutely dog walk Missouri, who I think maybe we've propped up a bit more than what we should have because of last year's team. And they're just not doing the same things. They lose Schrader, and all of a sudden they had everybody back but Schrader, and they just have not. They've been a shell of themselves. They can't get the ball to Theo Weiss. They can't get the ball to Luther Bird. Neither one of them can get going. They just look like they're spinning their wheels. So I fully expect Alabama to win that football game if what we've seen plays out. Can they beat LSU? Yeah, they absolutely could.
But even if they went out, I still think
you're asking them to then win their season, right? And then not losing the SEC championship game, which is what I was telling you earlier, in that if you get your third loss and the third loss is in the SEC championship game, is the committee going to reward a 3-loss SEC team?
No. But I just think you have so many teams right now. I just think Bama's the one with 2 losses, like in the conference. So I see their path being so difficult.
It is
getting
now
because you take any winner, like take any situation with this game with LSU and A&M, right? Say A&M wins. Their only loss is to Notre Dame, who's a top 10 team, right? Then they go on the road to South Carolina, New Mexico State, at Auburn, and then Texas. Even if they were to lose to Texas, which honestly I think would be a close game, even if they lose to Texas, they will have only one conference loss. And they'll be they'll be ahead of Bama. With LSU, even if they lose to Bama, they beat A&M, they would still be ahead of Alabama. Their path, they could be one of those teams that just sits there and they win out and everyone ahead of them crumbles down. That's possible. It's definitely possible. I mean, but you got Ole Miss. You've got so many.
Right.
So I don't know. I would give them a 60% chance. I think a pick'em's crazy. If I could bet the no on that, I would. I would love to, because a lot just has to happen. And it can. It's the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued by that. Yeah, it's a crazy year. I mean, it is. And especially in the SEC, everyone is good. And what about Vanderbilt, right? Do they have an SEC loss? I'm assuming they do. I think they lost to Georgia State, but I can't remember. I think they lost to Missouri. maybe. Yeah, Missouri.
They lost to Missouri 1,000%.
And they should have won that game.
I
They
just
should have
didn't
won
know.
that game.
I didn't know what week it was in. That's what I was trying to look for.
I actually had money on Missouri that game, and they should have won. Vandy should have won. So crazy year, for sure. Let's.
Yikes.
Is there anything else you want to discuss before we
Yes.
get to LSU?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Yes. Because you brought it up, I again, we already kind of skimmed over it. Alabama's a 17-point favorite at home with Missouri. I'm
Seems
not
right.
touching an Alabama
Seems
spread.
right. I mean, is
I'm
their
not
quarterback? What about Missouri's quarterback? And I know he had that little
about
historic
Alabama's
comeback.
quarterback. Milrose clearly hurt, right?
I didn't know he was clearly hurt.
Oh, he's playing like he's hurt.
Man.
Whether it's his feelings or his body, he's playing like he's hurt. I don't love that number. We already talked about the other two.
Give me the over in that game though. 51.5.
Bingo.
Like the over in that game.
The over in the game, maybe.
Give me the over.
The over in that game, maybe, with a little Boise State on the money line, might not be a bad go, because I'm riding that way. Boise, because Vandy's already, you already know that every year I bet the Vanderbilt win total. I do it every year, but they've already hit it. So obviously Boise State is the new train to ride. But the one last game that I wanted to talk about before we get to the coup de grace is obviously going to be Texas at Vanderbilt. Now it's 18.5-point spread. Hold on. Hold on.
Texas is at quarterback. Who do we know? Is it still
That's
Quinn?
what I want to discuss. Am I tripping? Am I tripping, or did I not? Because both games were happening at once, right? What was the reasoning? Did anyone listen to Sark give the reason as to why Arch went in and then back out? Like, what was the reasoning behind that?
I didn't listen. Don't have an official response. If I had to guess, it was just a kind of a, hey, wake up call. Like, you're not safe here kind of moment. And I think it was at the end of the half. I think he only had one possession, maybe two, but like it was at the end of the half. They onside kick, and I think he was coming in regardless. Quinn was.
Dude.
So I think it was just a, hey, dude, like, let's get your shit together. Like, there's no more excuses at this point. And like I said, I spoke on the last show. Just something's not right with him. I just don't know what it is. I hope the dude is okay mentally. I know he's ailing with injuries. I don't know what it is. He doesn't look right. I think you, in this game, I think you should start with Arch. I'm telling you. I don't think they will.
Is he better?
I think he's got more potential. And if you put them on the field together right now, that doesn't answer the question. I agree with the fact that he's got room to grow. I think Quinn is topped out. Now, Quinn's good. He's a good quarterback. He's a great quarterback, and he'll probably be one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft this year. But if you're just, I just feel like Texas needs a momentum change right now. Obviously they played a really good team in Georgia. They've got Vanderbilt. They've got an easy schedule until A&M. Kentucky is a kind of a sleeper game before that, but they've got a pretty cupcakey schedule. Why not? Why not give the kid some confidence? And you can make the same argument for Quinn. Hey, build yourself up. But then what if he goes in against Vanderbilt and we see the same stuff?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. What do we like? Who are we to say that we know better? But for me, when you take somebody out, that usually means they're out for a reason. I'm just shocked that he came back in. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think they'll pull him. I think they'll stick with Quinn. I think he'll play better against Vanderbilt, but it's a tricky game. It's just a very tricky game. We'll see. That's an exciting game. I'm going to be very excited for 3:00.
I'm hoping that Vanderbilt makes that a game, dude, because I kind of want them to run out of gas as they come into Baton Rouge, but I really want them to fight, and I really want them to at least keep it close and keep it interesting on Texas. But I I've been saying for the last few weeks that I actually liked A&M beating Texas at the end of the year. I've said it for the last couple of weeks. Having seen Texas and how they performed against Georgia made me feel even better about it. But the more and more I'm thinking about it, the more I just don't know anymore. I mean, we'll just have to, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. It depends on what Connor Wigman we get. And I think that's a perfect pivot point to get into this game. And so I guess if we're going to talk about it, the way I see this game lining up between LSU and A&M is if you're going to tell me that they're going to hold LSU to under 100 yards rushing, I'm going to have a really hard time finding a way to think LSU is going to come out of this game with a win. If you're going to tell me that A&M doesn't turn the ball over and Connor Wigman throws for 260 and two or three tuds, I'm going to have a hard time believing LSU wins because A&M can get after you off the line of scrimmage. That front seven is for real. I think it's probably a what front seven as South Carolina, and it's probably about as good as Ole Miss and probably better than Arkansas's.
A&M's rush defense, statistically, 116 yards a game. That's below average in the SEC.
They have an extremely similar style to what LSU just saw, but I think that they have better athletes in certain areas. The similarities come and that I think their DBs have been tried and they've struggled a little bit. They've got some talent out there. LSU is very familiar with Des Ricks. LSU is very familiar with their strength and conditioning coach, Tommy Moffitt. I think it's going to come down to which Connor Wigman do you get and what Garrett Nussmeier do you get. And if even though we think that the milkmen and the 13th man and their 12th man rather and all the weird crap that they do is cheesy and scary, it's not a bad football team. And Mike Elko hasn't believing in something even after the Notre Dame game. They didn't dip, they didn't trip, they didn't leave. Mentally they weren't checked out. I mean, they're in it, man. And so I have a really I don't know how to feel. I agree. LSU must start early and can't get down early because I think that they're going to try to play ball control with you and run that ball with Le'Veon Moss. Le'Veon Moss is one of those kids that if you get him going early, he's going to continue to go. Hard to bottle him up halfway through the game. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
I have been right 2 weeks in a row about LSU, and I feel like I need to put my rally cap on. I don't know. I don't have an answer for the next 2 minutes, but I will. So let's just talk about it.
Okay.
I'm going to talk my way to it. So let's talk about schedule comparison, right? So if we're looking at A&M, they lost to Notre Dame at home.
Yep.
Does LSU beat USC in Tiger Stadium at night if that's a home game?
Right now?
No, game one. But it's in Tiger Stadium, no neutral site.
Probably.
Okay. So Notre Dame's a good team. I get
hindsight's 2020, but probably.
Hindsight's 2020, but I get Notre Dame's a good team. However, they hosted them. McNeese, Wash, beat Florida, which is impressive as of right now, 33-20 in the swamp. Bowling Green barely beat Bowling Green, 26-20. Let's compare that to, I don't even want to say Nichols because we beat Nichols by a lot. We just struggled.
Marcel Reed ran for like almost 100 yards in that game.
Arkansas, which was close, came down to the very end, beat Arkansas 21-17. There's your common opponent. And that was a neutral site game. Missouri, dog walked Missouri. I don't think personally, at the time it looked good because Missouri had that number 9 next to him. To me, I don't think that was an impressive win. I think I would put it up there. I think, and then they beat Mississippi State by 10. So schedule comparison, pretty even, I'd say, right? I mean, I one common opponent, some discrepancies, some close games with teams that are there. If you look at the stats, like I said, yards per game allowed rushing, they're actually on par with us. We're at 114 a game allowed, and they're at 116. both below average, and then passing yards per game defended. We're second to last, which it's not shocking at this point. But they're getting better. It's kind of a deception. And then they're midway at 209. So I mean, this is about as close of a game as you can say. I'm more concerned about LSU beating themselves. We saw in the last game, in the first half specifically, what was it, 5 to 6 false start penalties? It's only gonna be a worse environment.
That just
At
started to
A&M.
happen though, so I really think that's a quarterback rhythm thing.
I think so too, but that can't happen. You can't get penalties. I am concerned about LSU beating themselves this game.
I agree.
I think if you wash out penalties, I think LSU wins the game. I fear that we're going to have some PIs not go our way. That's going to give great field position to a team that can run the ball. I fear those false starts are going to hurt. I'm picking Texas A&M to win this game, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I fear those penalties are going to happen, and I don't want to sit here next week talking and not have the "I told you so." I hope I'm wrong. I hope you can slap me in the face next week and you can tell me, "Hell yeah." Because if we don't make those penalties, we win the game. I just fear it's going to happen, and I'm preparing myself for that to happen. And I think when you're in this close of a game, those are going to matter. It didn't end up mattering against Arkansas. If you do the same shit, it's going to bite you in the ass against a good team. So my official pick by 2 points or 3 points is A&M, and I pray I'm wrong. I pray.
The thing that I was going to bring up, and we can end on this point if you want to. The false starts is especially when you're doing tempo, it's absolutely more of a I feel you, I hear you, boom. I feel you, I hear you, boom. Words, cadence, I feel you, I hear you, boom. When you're doing the check with me at the line of scrimmage, that's why you're seeing some of those players that kind of come up off the ball and like rear back because they don't want to be up and all tense. When Garrett is seeing something and then he goes, like it felt like when Garrett was checking at the line of scrimmage that he wasn't prepared. Like he was not prepared for him to continue to have the come up underneath me and then walk around and look back and then see something. It's like it wasn't in rhythm. It was all happening right there at the line. If you mitigate that, and I imagine that BK has been punching that into those kids, not physically, but like literally, not literally, it just feels like if you can't hammer that down, then you're not meant to go play on the road. So it's probably for the best that you don't even, like play these other teams like at home. It's good that you're getting your experience on the road with teams that you can ultimately beat and make mistakes in and still beat in an Arkansas, so that whenever it comes to playing a good team like this on the road back to back with A&M, that hopefully you've ironed it out. Did you? I'm not sure, but A&M getting LSU on a back-to-back road bender doesn't feel great. I think that these teams are incredibly similar in some certain spaces. I just don't know what Connor Wigman I'm going to get. And if I get the good one, I worry that LSU is going to do something silly and dumb to get themselves behind the 8 ball.
No, agreed. And from what I watched in that game against Missouri, just underneath routes, short underneath routes were killing Missouri. I feel like that will also hurt LSU. I feel like we'll get more pressure than Missouri did. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong, but that's where I'm at.
Cool. We'll talk about it as far as a standpoint is going to be with like picks and whatnot. We'll talk about it on the Twitter post. Like I said, either Friday night or Saturday morning. Just got to be tuned in. And I did pretty well on my picks last week. I went 3-1. Not really too overzealously excited about some of these spreads this week. It kind of felt like Vegas really is trying to slap us in the face with some real here lately. I don't love some of these numbers, but hey, look, can't get everything we want. So
Right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will be drunk on Saturday all day, all night, Halloween party, and just enjoying a nice little weekend. So, I hope everyone does enjoy their weekend regardless of how they do it. And we will see y'all next week.